Since we have a quorum, I will call the meeting of the West Bridgewater Conservation Commission for September 21st open. And I would like to welcome a new member. Carol Ashton is our alternate member that just got appointed this past week. So thank you for remotely coming in.
Thank you. I'm coming to you from beautiful downtown Wellfleet.
Oh, don't rub it in.
Yeah.
That being said, I will entertain a motion to approve minutes for August 17th and September 7th.
Make the motion.
Moving second, all those in favor? So moved. Next on our agenda, we have a new public hearing for 1 Nancy Way, and this is a general stormwater permit only for construction of a single-family home with site grading and utilities.
You're on, Bill.
Good evening, John and members. This is the last of 3 lots off of Stoney Road. This one was created years ago. The 2 front lots were formed out, and this was the result of a 1-lot subdivision that we went through the planning board a couple of years ago. Showing that the street, which was named Nancy's Way, and the lot itself, that Nancy's Way will remain as a private way. All maintenance, care, repairs, it's done by the owners of number 1 Nancy's Way. Under your regulations, because of our disturbance being over a certain amount, that's why we filed it over here this evening.
Do you want to describe the project a little bit more in detail?
Yeah, under the planning board rules and regs, under the 1 lot, they've basically what they've done is let you create a single family lot with a roadway. They've just downsized it from what would be a normal street. In this particular case, it was 18 feet of pavement. It's just an enlarged driveway is what it is. You'll see it coming in from Stoney Road. There's a little at the Stoney Road, edge of Stoney Road and Nancy's Way. You'll see that the roadway is just elevated just slightly. And that's to maintain the water from Stoney Road to stay in Stoney Road. It's not accepting any of the runoff from that particular side, that part of Stoney Road. It's actually almost in a high point. The roadway kind of goes both north and south, the drainage. So the roadway itself, the driveway, you can see there's a little bump out down in the round part of the cul-de-sac. And what that is, that's for people either backing out or emergency vehicles coming in and having to back out to leave. And again, this was all under the review and under the planning board regulations. What we have here is you'll see that most of our drainage from the pavement will come into a small area within that cul-de-sac, and it's basically a retention area. If a heavy rain event comes, that the water will store in that low area there, and then you'll see the takeoff swale that's heading down off the southeast, and it's basically just a grass swale coming down to an area of riprap that will be the discharge. You can see the lines just outside a 100-foot buffer. So all of the water on this lot by elevation all goes into that direction. So what we're doing is just continuing to do that. Most of our septic system, as you see, is out to the rear of the house. It is elevated. It'll be built up in that particular area. Again, everything is outside of the 100-foot buffer. Right now, it's pretty much almost all open field. Right to the rear, where we have the crosshatching, which is disturbance area. The can faintly see it, but you can see the tree line. There's not going to be a lot of cutting out there. Again, it's mostly just into the open field. Going a little bit towards the southeast of where you have the cursor, right there, John, that's about the only side that really dips in a little bit. When you come down to the takeoff swale, that does go just a little bit, probably 30 to 40 feet into the wooded area. But it's just going to be cleaned out, probably about a 20-foot strip, and it's more for access and cleaning of the stones at the end of the swale. But that's about the only clearing or cutting that we'll need to have done. Where you see the disturbance area there, we've already on the ground installed silt fence as shown on this plan. This basically marks where the limits of construction is going to be. So all the disturbance will be outside of that silt fence area. Down at the takeoff swale, you see that we've got some silt sock installed at the end of that takeoff. That hasn't been installed just yet. They started to, just to trim out a little bit, just to get in there to do it. One of the neighbors had grown, asked what they were doing, and I had told them that, any activity, if anybody had, any issues or anything, just to stop what they were doing. But basically, what they did, they just cut one tree down, probably halfway down, just where the wood started. But they just left it there. But again, it was they were just trying to get access to put the silt sock down around that area that we wanted to be able to continue to clean out. But that was just, I think it was last week, but the meeting was coming this week. So other than that, they're ready to go. They're a young couple that just bought the house, and they've got all their ducks in a row per se, and they're anxious to get going. They love the area. It's a beautiful area.
Bill, can you describe what you're doing to mitigate the impervious area for the roof?
Yeah, we've got on each end of the house, you'll see that we have the roof recharge systems, so that everything coming off the roof area, both there is a 3-car garage on the northerly end of it, and recharges is off to the north of that. Same thing down the south end of the house. They'll be installed there, recharged accordingly, keeping them away from the septic system as well. As recommended, we have designated a small area for concrete washout pit. When they're setting the forms, they're setting the foundation with the excess concrete when they wash out and dump. That area is reserved for that particular reason.
Is it this area that the cursor's on?
That's correct, John, yes.
Okay.
John, did you have anything?
That's an area that will really be pretty much, a grass area when it's finished. But it's more accessibility right there. Again, everything has been cleared. It's an open field, so other than some of the activity at the entrance where the 2 houses are, what they have done on the ground now, I was just out there, actually I was out there this morning. They've actually, they had some stone just at the entrance that they had put down. They've got it marked out, and they do have they had a load of stone delivered that'll be installed, and that would be at the construction entrance. The 50 by 24-foot area.
Sir, I have a question as a newbie on the committee. Do you have to get permission to cut trees before you cut?
Well, I'm not sure. It was only one tree. It was really in the process of just trying to get the erosion control set is what was at. It's actually in the middle of that grass swale. So that was the reason that they were trying to They were trying to cut the swale out just to get access to the vehicle, come in and unload and install it in there. But it would have had to have come anyways because of it's right in the middle of what will be the constructed takeoff strip. Everything we're doing certainly was outside the buffer, but they were just anxious to get in there and get the silt sock installed.
Do you want me to address that?
Yeah.
So I can expand upon that a little bit, Carol. They're outside the 100-foot buffer of the wetlands, so there isn't a restriction on cutting trees outside the 100-foot buffer. They would be subject to our approval for anything within 100 feet, and they can't cut anything within 50 feet. And if they do, then there's penalties and severe increase in planting ratio to replace the trees that are cut down.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions,
Yeah,
John?
I do.
Open it up.
So, I don't have any issue with the actual plan. As I noted, everything is outside the 100-foot buffer. So we have no means of putting in conservation posts or anything under the stormwater portion of the bylaw. So we're going to have to monitor this type of site to make sure that the future owners do not encroach upon the 100-foot buffer without seeking some information from us, and definitely not within 50 feet of the wetland. So if they were filing under the wetland bylaw, we could ask to have the conservation markers put on this 50-foot buffer, no-touch zone. But we can't do that. So what I would like to ask you and possibly Bill and possibly the new owners who I believe are with us this evening, we're going to be requiring you under the stormwater regulations to sign a drainage maintenance agreement on the structures that you've designed. And that would be this swale here and the, we'll call it the mini stormwater basin that you have off the Hammerhead turnaround. And since it's a private way, it's not going to be something that the town would be able to access unless there was an emergency. And so we're going to put the requirement that your future owners, current owner and future owners, if they're not the same, will have to maintain this stormwater basin and submit yearly reports to the commission as the stormwater authority that they've done the proper maintenance that is required to keep this operational as it was designed. That way, we can hope to prevent any future impacts on the 100-foot buffer and eventually the wetland as it goes through the buffer. Other than that, I don't have any other points to bring up, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody?
The septic system out back, how high is that gonna be above, raised?
Did you hear that, Bill?
I just got the very first part of it.
Okay, so the question is, how high is the septic system raised above the existing grade?
Yeah, if you look close, I mean, at the scale you've got it there, John, I think you can see the septic system area is about elevation 121.5 above sea level. If you can see the solid lines with the numbers on them, those are our proposed grades. If you look underneath, the dashed lines with the numbers on them, it's about 117. It's somewhere between 117 and 118. So there's going to be about 4.5, 4.5 feet of fill, by it all said and done. And most of the reason is created by that is a water table and keeping the foundation floor for the basement up high enough, as well as the septic system be, 4 feet above that water table to the bottom. That's the reason for that particular area.
Is it gonna be used as a grass area?
Everything that if you have an opportunity to grow, everything that was the open area of the field, I think they want to maintain it as a lawn, just for the aesthetics of the property. But they're eager to make it a nice home.
Now, from what I can see, is there any, it doesn't look like there's gonna be any room in the future if they decide to put a pool? Is that true, or?
Well, I never say never, but I would say to the north, if they wanted to put a pool, if it was an in-ground pool, the minimum would have to be 20 feet away from the septic system. They may have an area out behind the garage. Heading north is quite a bit of open area, well outside of the buffers. And again, if you see just above up there, it is an existing field area as well. But they didn't mention a pool. I'm not sure that's in their future. But if there is, they'll have to come. John, would that if they were to disturb more, refiling under your drainage, or that would only be, probably a 50 by 50 foot area, approximately 2,500 square feet. Would that trip off if they were to apply?
So, if they stay outside the 100-foot buffer and they propose an in-ground pool that's 50 by 55, as you say, it doesn't trigger the stormwater hearing. So it would be just a building permit, and we would have to sign off on the building permit as part of the process. They would be allowed to go between the 100 and the 50-foot no-touch zone here. They'd be able to put something here, but they'd have to file with the commission.
Right.
So it's, everybody wants to have a pool, a garden, a shed, area for their kids to be able to throw the ball and play, swing sets, that kind of thing. So it's not something that's going to be an issue with the commission as long as it doesn't go beyond the 50-foot buffer. If it goes any closer to the wetland, it becomes an issue. It can't be approved by the commission unless there's real extenuating circumstances.
I have a question regarding the number 15 Stoney, what the water conditions were before, or as they are now, what we expect them to be when the driveway's put in, and whether those folks have any questions of how the water will affect them, if at all. It looks like it's running off to the back.
That's Mill Pond.
You mean Mill Pond or Stoney? Because you said Stoney.
I'm sorry?
That's Mill
Mill Pond or Stoney?
Pond.
If I could, John,
I'm missing something.
So,
The water runs down Nancy Way to Stoney, and then it runs down and erodes the property next to mine towards Mill Pond. Because there are no storm drains in this area on Stoney. We talked about that.
I'm looking at number 15, which is to the, I guess we'll call it to the south.
this one right here?
Yeah, and more to the back of their property. I know the elevation is up there, but
Okay, so it runs this way, if it's this lot you're mentioning, it runs this way back towards the back of the land, and then,
so are we going to get any runoff off the driveway into the yard of
of the new one?
number 15? See, right in there, right.
Did you hear that, Bill?
Yeah, I can answer that, John. This was originally designed, when we did the front lots, we had a design for the back lot as well. You can see by contours that the intention for the whole back of 15, as well as the back of number 13, had always been that it's directed and will flow down towards the low area in the driveway for number one, and it will find its way into that small retention area, detention area down there, just off the kickback in the driveway there, John. So it is all designed, if you see the contours, that the very southeast corner of number 13, you'll see there's an elevation of 117.7 and a 118 contour just above that. So all of that backyard area will go continually back, but eventually that one corner will come and funnel through. And again, that's where they want to run off water. Nothing from the driveways is going to be added to this particular driveway. Both driveways on both houses are all graded from the garages, which are street load garages, back out to the street itself.
Is that a little berm that I can see along the edge of that driveway? Is that, you're gonna have
Well,
a little rounded berm to direct water down to the area where the swale is going to be?
That's not so much, it's not so much, it's gonna be a very slight berm. It's only 2 or 3 inches high. It's just enough where the entrance of the driveway comes in so that right along the edge of the pavement, that the stormwater coming off of Stoney Road will not be allowed to come down into that basin area. So that was always the intention. It was pretty much when we first got in there to do the original survey, there was actually an old, what we call a low wall that ran down along probably 10 feet off that paved area. It wasn't really that definitive so much, but it was enough of a buildup where, the water would stay on the Stoney Road side. We're not changing the conditions of the existing because of that reason. But we just didn't want to have this as a catch-all for the town water. If you do look at the grades, and maybe John, if you could raise the plan up north so we can see more of number 15. I think you can see where the high point. The high point is right in, almost opposite the driveway. And that's pretty much the high point in Stoney Road.
Right.
So from the driveway of 13, that's where it starts to go back towards, or down towards Mill Pond, and then the other goes the way it always has down the street, going northerly. There's a low area just opposite number 13. And that, again, and then it starts to creep up a little bit, going further northerly.
So, Bill, if you can correct me if I interpret this for what you just said. The high point is here at 120.
Correct.
It starts to go downhill in terms of elevation to 119 here,
Correct.
to 118 here. So that is the high, as you said, the high point. So I'm only pointing this out for the audience. The 120 is here, and you don't show enough of the detail of the road, but you're saying it goes from this 120 downwards towards Mill Pond.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. In about the same grade. It's a fairly
If you
probably.
could just stay there for a second.
1%.
Go back to your 120.
Yep.
No, drag that back down. You need the picture below. All right, so go back to your 120
Right here.
and come to the right and south. See that
Yeah.
122?
So,
Come to right there. See that 122?
yeah, these lots are
That
graded
takes
towards
all the
street.
water off of that lot and puts it on Stoney Road.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So then, Bill, if I could interpret what you've said here, you've got 119.8 here, or 6, at the entrance to Nancy Road. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So is it 119.8? Is that what that is?
Uh,
Let me,
it's supposed
yes,
to be-
119.8. then it's 120, 120.2, and then 120 again. So if we're interpreting this as the high point in the street layout of Stoney Road, the runoff will go from this point towards Stoney Road for just this section. And then from this point, it's all downhill towards the new house. Is that what your intention was?
Yes, that's the design for the water.
All right. So the audience here is saying that the front of this house at, I think it's 115, or is it 113?
No, it's number 15
Number
Stoney.
Number 15.
I'm sorry, I got the hundreds in my mind. So number 15, it's all driveway, front lawn is all directed towards Stoney Road. And I would assume that your other one up here, number 13, is doing the same thing. The
Correct.
front is going towards the road. But
Which
13 is
causes-
going in the opposite direction, you know, going north, let's say. And number 15 is going southerly towards Mill Pond. Then we have at the side of the house, elevations down towards Nancy Road, and in the back, elevations going towards the back of the lot and Nancy, the lot that's now 1 Nancy Way.
Yeah, and if you can slide that forward, John, you'll see, and just get up behind number 15, you can see the proposed contour in there. Well, they've been graded such that you know, and this was the proposed, but you'll see that we're going to be shaping that up. It was always intended, that's the natural flow. It's just that rather than just going straight by, we've shown that we're going to take it in and put it into that little detention area coming off that house number 15. And again, just run it into that small, you know, detention area, and then it'll be put in that takeoff channel. So it more or less puts it in that one spot down.
And that detention area is big enough to hold both those 13 and 15 lots? Is that?
Yeah, well, yeah. It's basically just a driveway, and these are the plans that were submitted for the planning board under their review under single-family lots, and that's what we've always proposed.
So it's big enough? It's big enough to hold it?
Yeah, on small storms, sure. Yep.
Okay.
John, I have a question. If you could scroll back to number 15 Stoney Road.
Yep.
And just go up a little bit. It looks like the 118 elevation is a new elevation.
Yes.
Is the abutter okay with the elevation change on their property for the project?
What will end up happening on that, this is, you know, what will happen on that, we'll just pull that back over. We'll just adjust it onto our property.
I mean,
We've staked out all the property lines down on there, so the construction will be outside of that line.
How about this one over here, Bill? You see my cursor?
yeah, I mean,
Why does it end right there?
Yeah, this, John, since when we did this was originally when Cruz owned all the lots. Right now, that they have actually, they have just gone back within the last couple of weeks, and they've actually loomed, I'm pointing to the thing here, unfortunately. You see the property line that runs along Nancy's Way, John? Yeah, right where your cursor is there. Well, that's all been, they've built that up a little bit and added a lot more loom than shown on this plan the last couple of weeks. They've seeded it. So what we'll do is we'll just keep our, when we blend into theirs, we'll keep the 19 contour coming down to meet, you know, onto our property. You can see we've got probably 18 feet of, at least, looks like 15 feet.
So did he say that he did get clearance to? or-
He said he's gonna revise the contours to,
To move it so that they're all off of the property line to.
Well,
on the-
yeah.
Oh, I see, he's just
Yeah, so
using
he's just
that
gonna
as
pull this
an
line
indicator,
over to here.
Yeah, I see what you mean, okay.
Yeah, again, this was done, well, we've been in a couple of months anyways waiting for that, or at least a month. But on the original one, it was always, they were supposed to, when they finished the grading coming back after the winter, that was one of the things that were on the original plan, that they had to come in, they had to touch up here. They just finished the grading on number 13 as well. So I was out there, well, within the last couple of weeks, and I'd set grade stakes for them to match what the design plan was. And they've completed that on 13, and again, they've just completed, just the final, with just one little corner that they had to do. But as soon as we had the sign off from Concom, we're all set to go in there. I've staked the limits of the roadway, and I'm all set to put the grades on there for their construction so that they can grade through the grade stakes. I didn't want to put any grades or anything on them just yet. I didn't want the contractor to get too anxious and go in there and when he wasn't supposed to. But they've been very good. So that'll be all. It'll be staked out, with final grade contours, stakes when they get ready to roughen the road, drive itself.
so, I guess the question is it fair to say that this, grading that was done on 15 was not in accordance with what you had shown for this contour?
Well, they hadn't finished it off, John. They just finished it off. The grass just started growing, so I imagine it's probably about a week and a half. So where you see the 119 contour, they have filled in that area. It was from the hydrant, pretty much right where the PC at the hydrant is, and they had left a strip down there, probably 20 feet in from that corner stake, that they hadn't finished loom from last winter. So they were waiting to get in now when they were doing 13 to finish that little bit there, and they brought in the loom and they dressed it all up. So I'm it's going to be such that the 119 will come down inside this inside the right of way itself, and we'll just adjust the 18 front to it.
That area is currently grass, and it has a gentle slope to Nancy Way. They didn't change it tremendously.
I think we should have a condition, if it's approved, that none of the, this plan purports to put the water from Nancy Way into that small basin at the hammerhead. And if we put a condition that the grading has to be done in such a manner as not to put water on to 15, I think that would solve the problem.
Well, can we add not to put water onto Stoney too?
No,
Why can't we add that condition?
it's not purporting to do that, so.
Well, it's not purporting to put it onto
Sir,
15 either.
sir,
when you want
hold on for a
condition.
second, will you? You'll have your opportunity as soon as the chairman opens it up to the audience. So I am recommending that, because this plan probably doesn't reflect what's happened recently out there, that we put a condition that if the commission does approve it, that none of that drainage, for Nancy Way will go on to number 15. I've already pointed out in questioning Mr. Self how the water at the entrance to Nancy Way does not impact Stoney Road at this point. The facts are that number 15 does drain water to Stoney Road, and so there's nothing that can be done at this point to correct that. That's already been built, sold. There's no authority that at this point that can go in and make anything change there. So are you good with that, Mr. Self?
Yeah, John, that's what I had tried to explain, that we'll certainly, we'll make sure that the water comes down on and within Nancy's Way till it gets down on our client's lot. So it won't have any impact on number 15. For some reason, if the guy, if he wanted to allow it to happen, he'd have to put, we put in a letter to the Concom. But I don't foresee it. There's plenty of room. You see where the driveway is. Plenty of room for us to readjust our grades and go ahead and keep it on completely on our property.
You have room to put a swale in to direct it towards that basin.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
Does
That was
that,
kind of what I was
yeah,
getting at.
how about your question?
Yeah.
You
I
had
think-
one like that too.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else? Any
I just want
questions?
to make sure that he designed the
Basin. of-
detention area big enough to be able to take on those two lots.
Yeah, to take the water from the front
Mhm.
yard and everything from the driveway.
Does the cross-hatching indicate impervious, that's all paved?
No, it's just the amount of disturbance. He was calculating the amount of disturbance to see what the qualification was for a general stormwater permit or an administrative.
But it's gonna be 50 feet wide.
The road itself, the driveway is
18.
18 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, there you go, it's right
Okay,
there.
I understand.
All right.
Yeah, as long as we get that flow moving down towards the retention area.
How big and deep is that detention area?
It's only if you scroll back up, John, a little bit, you can see it's only going to be probably 1.5 feet, maybe 2 feet. And it's just going to be it'll appear to be lawn. It's just going to be a bowl area. It's really to redirect the water. That all goes there now. It's all going to that same direction. And under the single-family home, we're not changing the amount of it. We're just making sure it continues to go back in the same direction it did, from the result of the two front lots. It's the same amount of water, if not less. Half the front lots will be going back out to the street under design for the former properties.
All right, any other questions?
Mm-mm.
All right, I'll open it up to questions from the audience. Anybody has any?
Yes, I'd like a couple of questions.
Yep.
Is anything in this plan looking for a variance, an exception, or is this like a legal lot? Because he's outside the 100, there's,
He's outside the 100, so there's no wetland regulation that we look at.
Okay.
We have our general stormwater bylaw that covers this disturbed area if it's over different thresholds for the square footage.
Mhm.
And then we have to look at where the drainage is going.
okay.
And that's one of the reasons we're looking at how high this lot's built up, because we're seeing a lot of, we'll call them islands, built in town recently.
Mhm.
And all that drainage is now going somewhere, and typically it's onto a neighbor's property. So we're
Right.
trying to make sure that if this is draining away from the house, that it's not draining onto somebody else's property, and if it's going in that direction, it's going in the natural flow, and we're slowing it down and treating it before it gets there.
Okay. We were here a few years ago when the first two lots were proposed, and we were told that, don't worry, all the water will be taken care of. Now, the gentleman's correct about Stoney Road. Right about where Nancy Way comes out is the high point. So if you have any kind of rainstorm, there is a permanent puddle in front of 13. Now, the contractors come in and put 18 inches of 2-inch rock there to kind of hide the puddle, but the puddle's there constantly. And then the rest of the water comes down Stoney Road, goes south, and is constantly eroding my property line, or the street near my property line. And it takes all that material and washes it into the low area near the corner of Stoney and Mill Pond. Okay, so there's nothing being done with this water. Now, the gentleman here said he would like to put he would like to put a condition in that no water comes from Nancy Way to 15. I would like to put a condition in that no water comes from Nancy Way to Stoney. Now, they have that elevation there that says, okay, they're gonna make it 120. Well, that doesn't prevent the contractor that's doing the work to come in and make it level. So I would like a condition that it will be 120 at the beginning of the driveway and keep that 1 foot buffer so the water does go back to the retention areas and not onto Stoney Road. Does that make sense?
Do you want me to address that?
Yeah, go ahead, John. We'll let you.
So he's designed it in this manner, which is why I pointed it out.
Mhm.
There will be a requirement that the permit be recorded at the Registry of Deeds, and it will require an as-built to get a certificate of compliance at the end of the project. And if it isn't that way, you won't get a certificate.
So at that point, they would have to redo it to bring it
Yeah.
up to that 120,
Yeah.
is it 120?
120.2.
Okay.
But
So-
how do you monitor that, John? The job is done, we don't go out and shoot new elevations either, just to make sure it's there, if you know what I mean. You have to.
We have to rely on the engineer to do an as-built that shows
That's right, yeah.
what
Yeah.
the conditions were at the
So
time
that
it was
would
finished.
Kind of address what you're saying, they gotta do what they gotta do.
In the past, we had no requirement to get a certificate for stormwater,
Right.
only for
Right.
wetland permits. And the new change in our stormwater bylaw that recently was adopted by the commission has a requirement that these get recorded, the general stormwater permits get recorded, and that it requires a certificate of completion, just like on a notice of intent where we issue an order of conditions. It gets recorded, and we will not allow the certificate to be recorded if it's not according to that plan. So that should address that small portion. I don't know what to say. I'm glad you mentioned it, that there's a puddle up in the 13 area.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw it today too.
It's constantly there, and it
It's
hasn't
always
rained in
there.
days.
Was that puddle there before the houses were even there?
Yeah.
Yes, and it was addressed in a meeting before that there was so much water on this
So
lot that was
would
pushing it.
almost be
That's the water tank.
highway,
Hmm?
So, yeah, that's,
the highway department, or?
that has to do something with the, I would say.
Well, it's
construction
stormwater
of the road.
runoff, and like I said, it was discussed before. And they said, don't worry, we would take care of it. But,
It's a lot more now than it was before.
Yeah.
right, because of the septic system on 13 is raised up, so it's pushing a lot more
Is the septic
water.
on 13, is that grassed yet?
It is grass.
It
is
It's
grass.
not 100% in yet, but yeah, it's grassed. But it's probably 5 to 7 feet higher than Stoney Road. So there's a constant puddle there. If it rains enough, the puddle will come across the road, and there's a ditch on the other side of Stoney that will fill up. And the whole area is clay, so it sits for weeks.
But it's sort of always been there even before these houses.
Not to this extent at all.
Not to this extent.
No,
It's almost to the point where
Yeah.
the road's small enough as it is.
right.
Kind of wish that they would come in and build the road the right way, the drainage and all that stuff.
Well, it's gonna be,
John,
Hold on, Bill. We need to
Yeah,
get
go ahead.
conversation at this end first. That is an issue, by the way, that he's raising. If it was a minor puddle before these houses were built and now it's become a major problem, it's now becoming something that's going to cost the town money to correct. And this developer who is proposing this house needs to deal with that water. And I think we need to talk to the DPW to see if they have an issue. If they say they have no issue, then they can answer to the residents.
Well,
But-
if it gets to be freezing to that point, and it stays there all the time, that's gonna be an issue.
that's why I don't think they could say there's no issue, but if they did, they would have to answer, not us, to the residents. So I think we need to find out from the DPW whether this is an issue that they want to deal with, or they want us to deal with it with the contractor to get this house built. And if that's the case, then I think the drainage has to be collected and put onto this remaining land where there's plenty of room for it to be dispersed, rather than becoming an issue for the town. But again, we don't control what goes on in the street, but if the construction that's occurred there has created an issue that was far worse than what it had always been, and the DPW does not want to have to pay to square it away sometime down the road when it's freezing, when it's creating safety hazards, then I think we need to get it incorporated into this plan.
Do they salt that area? That section of the road? Or is
yeah.
that it is.
And that's why we have the stormwater bylaw now, so that we're not draining all this water onto the road, making the puddle, which unfortunately 13, I believe, was approved and done before the bylaw was in effect.
Or at least it wasn't an obvious issue that was going to
Right, cause
this ponding, so.
Yeah, we brought it up, but they said it wasn't an issue. But if you want to take a look at it, all you have to do is go drive. It's going to rain Wednesday and Thursday, so you drive through there Friday morning,
Yeah.
and you'll see it.
Well, I think
Like you said, the fact that it's
honest,
clay, it goes nowhere.
We don't want to
Yeah.
add any more water.
Right.
Right, and that's why I wanted to condition at the beginning of Nancy and Stoney to make sure that you are driving uphill from Stoney on to Nancy, and then slightly downhill to carry the water that way. Now,
Right across the road from that, is there any,
there is a pretty good swale that is in front of the Massachusetts Reserve. So there's a swale, I mean, a ditch,
It's just a ditch.
but it's a pretty good ditch across the street. But because Stoney is higher than the ditch and where the water's pooling, it has to get quite high before it runs across the street and into that ditch. But if it rains enough, it fills the ditch up.
And you can't get into the concert, like the, where the sign is, you can't go down that
Can't get
road.
into the
You
state
sink.
forest.
You just sink.
could something be like a drain put underneath the road
That's what I was
to
thinking
to
too.
disperse it out?
Well, I'm seeing that it could be brought down along the easterly or right-hand side of Stony Road into Nancy Way and then dispersed.
So if they take it here and do some type of a drainage system to bring it into here,
Bring it down.
and then it takes it away from the road and then brings it,
Yeah, because then they could do it right on the lot.
right, they could,
I don't know where you're pointing.
Well, they would
Because
have to
it
get the
doesn't show.
permission of, I guess, 13 to dig up their front. Well,
right.
actually, it's probably not their front lawn. Stony Road is,
Yeah.
Like the road layout is probably
It's
far
not-
enough
yeah.
in that
Here's
there's,
the
Right.
pave, here,
Right.
here's the edge of pave, and here's the layout.
Right.
So there's plenty of room in this area, almost as wide as the street itself.
right,
Or let's say the pavement of Stony Road. So it's almost as wide as the pavement in this area here,
right.
and they could collect
Put a drain
it,
in there and have it go down Nancy Road.
go down and then out.
To our backyard.
It's what, so that's the, yeah, that's
No,
the
no,
next
it'll-
conversation.
No, it'll go down into the retention.
The retention-
But the
pond.
retention pond, I mean, you all know how much water we get. We get lots of water. We have 2 sump pumps because we get so much water.
Which we never used before.
We never, yep, until like, they're constant.
Until
It's-
when?
They
till they
started
disturb
disturbing
the land.
behind us.
Yep, and now we have 2 sump pumps and they go all the time. So, I
You see
know
where that-
Bill said that, sorry, go ahead.
That word plan is there, to the right there where that retention area is gonna be.
That's our house.
Our house is like
It's
right
very
there.
convenient that all the abutters were
Mm.
left off this plan where I have the previous one and we were
I'm
all
gonna,
on it.
I'm gonna stop sharing this for a second.
God,
Just a second, Bill. I don't know. I hope I don't lose everybody here.
that's 15
This is gonna be cool.
there. His house. Is this one here?
It's a shot.
Their house. Your house down Mill Pond, is it the second or the
It's the last
The
one.
last
last one?
Last on the left.
Last, okay.
Yeah.
I guess it would help if I spelled it right.
So
First,
that's gonna
second,
be right
third.
about there. That's what it
So now behind my shed is like
It's
a,
on Mill Pond.
it's like a pond back there now. And
There
it's
we
gonna
go.
get worse if we add more water to it coming off that retention area behind our house.
All right, so,
Over the corner there.
I don't think this is being shown on, for the Zoom audience, but for the audience here, here's Nancy Road. And that takeoff swale is probably in this area right here. So you're right, is this
Yeah.
your house right here?
That's where they're
Right.
taking the trees down too, right? Like
Yeah.
So-
25 feet behind our property line.
So I'm the one that went out, I'll admit it, I'm the one that went out and talked to them because they were starting to stop. They were cutting down trees before we had this meeting. And I just figured, well, that's gonna be a problem because I know no one's gonna take care of the swale. No one's gonna take care of the swale. And the only recourse I have to soak up the water is the trees that are there. And if the trees are there, at least it gets some of the water. If you cut down the trees and no one takes care of the swale, or that retention pond overflows, it's all coming to our houses.
Yeah, before they
So-
started clearing that property there, we didn't have any water. We
Any
had dry
water.
sump pump. Now we have 2 sump pumps in our basement.
So to address the maintenance, I spoke earlier about, one of the conditions will be that they sign a drainage maintenance agreement.
Right.
And they will be, the owners of this property will be responsible for maintenance of the basin next to the turnaround and the takeoff swale. And there is a clause in there that if it's not done and it creates issues and the town has to go in, the town will charge the owners of the land for the cost of maintaining it. And if it's not paid, the property will be liened. So there'll be a lien put on the property. So there's a lot of power there to enforce the agreement that, that will be required to be signed before this is approved, or as it's approved.
And if you're able to see it from your house,
But
it's
what-
causing a
That's
problem,
right,
and you can
because
say
we
something.
don't monitor that. The only way we're going to know anything is
Is
if
right.
Right, but
Can
now
it be
our concern
moved?
is,
Can it be moved east more into the wetlands or closer to the wetlands?
We don't wanna come in more towards us. I
No, I'm
wanna-
saying
Well,
more that way.
with the
So-
arrows.
So it'd be more towards past your house.
I'm gonna get rid of this and get back to our
Yeah,
plan.
sure.
So,
We can leave it. just-
Elevation, well, I'm looking at the elevations, and they have it ending right at 114, and then it slopes out from there.
See, our concern is we already have water, and now you're gonna be adding more water from Nancy Way and from that new home into that retention area. So it's just gonna overflow back into our yard.
I mean, Bill said himself it would handle moderate, I mean,
Storm.
small,
Small
moderate.
storm.
What about when
Yeah.
we have a lot of snow and everything melts and it's all gonna come to us?
so if they
Because we
were
already have water
to
back there.
expand it, they could expand it more, they'd have to change these contours, but they could expand it more over here
East.
and hopefully direct it a little bit farther away. Or they could go in the 100-foot buffer and stop short of the 50-foot buffer.
That would put it past your lot.
So it would be lengthened to the point
drain into the wetlands.
where it's directed more away from the abutting properties such as yours, and they have to make a decision whether they want to file with the commission under a wetlands permit as well, but they
See where
do
that-
have the option.
The barrier is down on the bottom of the screen? Yeah, down there. How far is that from our property line?
Bill, can you answer that?
That's about, first of all, I did send you, John, I'm not sure you have them if you're ready, but I remember giving you the subdivision itself that showed the swale on that, for your personal knowledge, I'm not sure you can follow that. But as far as what the swale is, somewhere is about 70 feet. The reason we left the swale, the end of the swale where it is, two reasons. Keep it outside of your 100, but I don't have a problem with going back to the new owners and explaining to them that your recommendation is to just turn that swale down and bring it down into that neck, John, that you see, that's still outside. It'll all be outside the 100-foot buffer, and we just make a field adjustment, you know, and show you a adjustment plan. We'll just put it there. We could, you know, keep the grade going down. So your outfall would be probably, get it to be 111, which would certainly help the concerns of the neighbors to the south. I think that's one of their main concerns. The reason we had it there is we're just trying to save trees, just trying to keep it outside of the woodland enough so that we knew that the water would go there and find its way eventually down to 110, which on the plan you can see it's about 60 feet away. But we wouldn't have an issue in the field. It's not really a major change, but we could turn that a little bit, direct it towards the 111 contour for your outfall, for your stone area, John. I think that would answer their concerns there. I remember going through the subdivision with the planning board. These concerns came up, and same plan that we presented, and that was all you know, gone over with the planning board. If I can just jump off on one of the points, John, go back.
Yeah, before you do that, what was the distance from here to the property line, did you say? 7 feet?
70.
70, okay, thank you.
Yeah. And again, we're trying to get, you know, just to keep, you know, like a 1%, at least 1% slope for the takeoff. But with their concerns, I don't think we could make a field change and just turn that and go ahead and get a couple more feet of elevation for the discharge. I don't see an issue with that. Number two.
But hold on for a second. So a field change, but how do we compare the field, if we permit this and then we hold you to the permit plan for an as-built at the end and a certificate of compliance, how do we hold you to it?
Well, make it a condition, John. It's a condition that what we would do, first part of the construction phase that's one of the reasons I wanted to get the siltation devices in there, was because I want them to start the swale so that as we work out, get the road prepped, so any of the runoff that's coming in during the construction would have an opportunity to not stay on site. That's number one. What we could do is we could stake that out, stake a new one out, John, have you go down and look at it. You know, so, you know, we'll show you where it is. You could extend it, put it right where your cursor is. And again, that would pick up at least 2 feet lower in elevation and get it a little bit. That would get it probably another 30 feet away from the southerly property lines. That would certainly be a better remedy there.
So, did the planning board see all of this?
Yes.
And they had no issue with the drainage?
No. The plans were all approved, signed, recorded. We had multiple meetings.
Why on that plan, why don't we have the abutters so they can look at the elevations?
Did you say you had another plan that you sent and it's not up on the screen at this point?
I sent you the subdivision plans that were submitted to the planning board.
And did it show the swale here?
It did. Yep. We're not changing anything to do with the roadways, street locations, and the drainage, same as that was submitted to the planning board. Planning board, under their approval as well, requires a final as-built of this property, including the roadway bounds to be set. as part of the issue done to the planning board. So the town, as well as we do as-built for the building department at the end of the project as well. So that was as far as making sure that everything is constructed by the approval. But this is a plan.
I think we should get some more questions from the audience, and then I think we have to discuss this issue.
He had a second thing he wanted to talk about.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry,
Yeah,
Bill.
I think it's awful hard for presenters to not be able to handle the questions. I have some of the answers that most of your neighbors were looking for. We're here to help. We're not here to just, as far as one of them was the as-built. Everything that you see in the plan has to be done by this planning board as well, and submitted to the planning board under the conditions of the planning board approval. As far as the water issue that the residents are talking about down in front of 13, John, if you could move down to that on your plan. If you can just lower this plan again, the other plan, but if you see with the telephone pole just off on the site plan for number 13, John, I can send it over to you.
That proposed utility poles in the wrong place. Utility poles actually east of Stoney, not west of Stoney.
Say again?
The proposed utility pole that's on that, right there?
Yeah,
The utility poles are east of Stoney, not west of Stoney.
Yeah, I understand that, but I was just trying to get you to a position. You see where the Stoney Road, the letter R is, 218 contour? Well, I'm estimating probably another 25 feet, John, is the low point in the road, the Stoney Road, going both north and south. The trench that was put in when that 3-inch, 4-inch rainstorm came, unfortunately at the time, they were also final looming that lot 13, and it was just a washout. One of the drains for the roof wasn't plugged in, it was supposed to go, but that was done. That was the issue was resolved. But most importantly, we did have a flooding issue now. We had the town DPW with the general contractor that was building number 13. He was contacted by the DPW. The contractor that at the time Dave Bruce Properties was using, he came down and they went over the issues with the DPW. What had happened is that traditionally at that low point, if you go towards the west onto, I think, of the state property, you will see that the road drops down probably maybe 1.5 feet or so on that other side. It does create some kind of a swale in there. It looks like over the years through the plowing mechanism, probably in the winter time, that the berm on the other side of Stoney Road, the loom that looked like it was chewed up over the years by snowplows, when it redistributed it, just built up a berm. That water always should have drained off that side at that low point. It's probably about an inch and a half higher than the center line on both sides. But when the DPW came down and they went over with the contractor, what they did do was to lower that berm on that westerly side of Stoney Road to allow that water. When they did that, the water just drained. The trench that was put in on number 13, if you see, it's pretty much between the property line and Stoney. It pretty much runs just north of the PT there, John, with the concrete bound. And they did fill it with stone to allow some of the water to gather there. Of course, none of the lawns were grown in. None of the road runoff was being, just the natural ground runoff was being absorbed. But the last couple of storms I've gone down, and it certainly didn't have any ponding effect like it did. Of course, nothing was going to stop the 3-inch or 4-inch rainstorm. we had that weekend. So that was one of the major reasons. But it was brought to the attention of the contractor and the DPW out there. They had a couple other issues as far as pavement, where the water main was constructed down near Mill Pond. So the contractor brought the pavement guy in under the direction of the DPW, and they fixed that. And they also checked with the DPW at the time, and they were looking for sign-offs on number 13. The DPW didn't have any issues. So we had done a lot to, try to help a problem. That problem has been there. I think the residents have told you that it has been there a long time. It's just a low spot. I took additional grades, and it doesn't take but more than about an inch of height in the center line at that low point to keep the water from naturally going to the west off that roadway, and that was happening right there. But as far as ensuring that, going back to the entrance to the road, John, as far as ensuring that that's built, the as-built will show. And I pointed out to the contractors that have been brought in to build the house exactly, what was to be done, and supervising, making sure, through the as-built process that it's done correctly. But as far as if the one item, we can certainly stake that out and redirect, just turn the swale over a little bit more, going towards that neck and where the 100-foot buffer comes in. Right now, we've got it outfall at, I can't read the number, John. If you raised it up, see what the outfall of the, I think it was just at one outfall of the swale.
Any other questions from the audience?
That 114, we could certainly get it down to 112, John. It would be too, and that would redirect it more towards the center of this lot and into where, where there's a more of a natural wetland. Again, your wetland's still 100 feet away, so there's plenty of area for it to naturally, sheet flow across that the woods. We just, there was a lot of, some trees that have to come down, but it can't be done.
See, that's my point right there. That's the right side, the lower part of the screen. That's where all the really heavy trees are. That's where there's a whole lot of pines, there's oaks, and there's beech, and they're about 80 feet tall. They're huge. And that's what soaks up some of my water, at least some of it. If you get rid of those huge trees, and that doesn't take care of all the water, then I'm gonna have even more problems. I was hoping that if you do anything, you go up and, like, I'm just gonna point up and to the left, more towards their property than our property.
Well, I think that's what he's trying.
Is he going up?
Yeah, I think that's, the
Not
intent is to
straight
stay
back.
out of the 100-foot so that they don't have to do a wetland filing, but keeping it up into the area where the cursor is moving.
Right
So-
out in there, yeah.
So if you would have to take from where the proposed catch basin detention pond area is and move the whole thing up a little bit to get the flow correct, I'm assuming is what he's thinking, John,
Go
correct?
away
Yeah.
from your property.
So if you scroll back a little bit, John.
So north and east.
Scroll
Right.
down just a little, yeah.
So this would be moving probably up
Up
and then
that way.
out in
That
order
would be
to
better.
make the directional flow
Because if
work.
anyone ever walked back there with me, that's where there's a lot of heavy, heavy trees. And that's the only thing that kind of sucks up some of our water right now. That's all that's left.
There's a beautiful pines back there that
Just huge,
right where that
huge.
map is probably.
Is that the natural, where the house is being built, I don't want to belabor the whole thing because it's not our purview, I don't think, but where the house is being built, is that the natural contour of the land, or are they bringing fill?
Well, they're raising it
up?
up,
Yeah.
which is gonna increase the amount of flow coming
That's
off.
correct.
So
That's
you've
right.
gotta
That's
compensate, even though they're not theoretically shedding more water somewhere, the flow is faster because of the elevation.
But they got the,
So
Well,
you'll,
that's,
they have the detention areas.
Right, and I mean, they're
Right.
holding it back in the detention pond a little bit.
I
They've
see
also
the
got
arrows.
the rain
Yeah.
infiltrators to take all the stormwater off the roof.
Yeah.
But you've still got all the driveway
Sure.
impervious to deal with, and that's
Sure.
what you gotta slow down, and the lawn is up that much higher, so you've gotta figure out how not to shed that.
So most of the runoff comes from the roof, for this new house project, let's say, comes from the roof. So we haven't put them into dry well
That's right,
systems.
yeah.
And the driveway, if you drive down any one of the streets in these newer subdivisions where everything's raised, the water just pours down the driveway and into the street system. So they've
Right.
addressed that by putting it into that basin at the,
But even if it's like this now, and then now it's like that,
Yeah.
because you're still gonna get more
so they,
runoff than you would.
And it doesn't help that it's all clay.
It's
so
all-
they
yeah.
proposed
And it's
the,
all clay, it is.
foundation basement floor, let's say at 117.7.
Yeah.
And the existing grade there is
118.
118. So
So,
they're going
yeah.
less than a
Yeah.
foot into the ground with the basement. There'll be a footing, of course, and all that
Right.
below it, but.
This is essentially what they did with 13 and 15. They built it all up. They went very little into the ground, the foundation. They both have walkout basements in the back of the house and the big mound in the front yard for the septic.
So this one has the system in the back, so they have a mound there as well as in the front too.
Well, they become accumulating problems as you add properties everywhere. By themselves as a standalone, you'd say, well, it's okay, but now,
The detention area, he said that was based on a small storm. What's the small storm? What is it? What does he figure, what do you figure the small storm is? It's not a 100-year flood,
It's not
We're
a
having
waste of-
those multiple years now.
because we're having 4 inches
I
a
mean, it's not,
couple times a year, it seems like. So is there any way of maybe possibly
The main- the
making
main
it bigger?
reason
can't be
for
that much
that
more
is to
expensive to make.
redirect the water that was already going to the lower area of the wetlands. One of the reasons through the planning board when we did this was that swale to us, design was a twofold. It was one to get rid of and allow the water to be rejected just from the driveway. But it also acts as a stop point for any overflow surface water that was going southerly towards Mill Pond, coming off of the house. We knew it was gonna be raised because it was so tilted. So having said that, that's one of the second reasons for the swale being located where it is. And when I was out there this morning, because the contractor called me and there was a neighbor that had a complaint, and I told him, anyone who's out and has any questions, just stop what you're doing, with the meeting's coming up. But when I went out there was only one tree. Luckily, where we had put this, it was right near where you see 115, John, the 115 contour right in the swale.
Okay.
And right about there was a tree right pretty much dead center in the swale, so that's the only reason they even cut that. Because they wanted, I told them, don't cut a lot out, just what you need. But having heard, again, the concerns, the elevation we can get the outfall, and again, it's picking up water that comes in that direction normally anyways, but it will allow us to get the water at a lower elevation. That certainly helps, get the people from the south side of this property. We have concerns, it would help keep it even further away from them. But the trade-off is we have to cut into the natural forestry. I mean, it's a huge, it's 193,000 square feet. It's a huge lot. They're trying to keep it as natural as possible. 2 reasons: to stay outside of the 100-foot buffer, but they like it to be natural too. This is their home they're building. They're not building. This is not a spec house. It's a young family. We're excited to be the neighbors. So, but we feel we've done, there's a lot to try to answer and try to work with the neighbors here. Sites.
So,
So-
John, can I say something?
So what I'm trying to say is, so you can't make it any bigger?
It doesn't solve, all you're gonna have is a large area for storage. it's going to do what it's designed to do and still allow the water to replenish, 100 feet away from your wetlands, to replenish it somewhat evenly.
So how did you base that on? How did you base a small storm?
It's a single-family home. We're not required under the stormwater management to size.
Okay, so we could tell you to put 2-car garage on it instead of a 3-car garage to help the roof run off. To make it better, because if it's gonna be an issue for the abutters, then you gotta do something about it.
Well,
Yeah, I'm
the roof
concerned
roof
myself.
is fantastic with the sub-drains around the house.
Well, we're not deciding anything tonight anyways.
Right.
So that land, most of us know, has been tried to be perked for 25 years, and it never perked because of the water. There's an underwater stream there, there's everything, and all of a sudden, 1 year, like, oh, it perked, and still, I mean, we have such water problems.
It is crazy how some places I never thought would perk either, but.
Yeah, after like 25
But
years.
you can only go down like they
Yeah.
do, they're only putting the houses down a foot into the ground, and building it up. It's kinda crazy,
I mean,
but
the
they
houses are
can,
sitting on top of mountains, and it's all just.
but they can do it, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
kinda crazy.
Yeah, but
Yeah, they
who's it
changed
hurt?
Title
The rest of
V.
us,
Yeah.
right.
I'm thinking that the questions that have been raised by the abutters in the proximity of the outfall to their property, which they already have issues, we need to expand that out, which would help with what Lee is saying, that if that basin only holds a small storm, we need to get that water through that swale to the meat of this large lot. I mean, if it was a small 30,000 square foot lot, I don't think we could do anything about it. And we have the opportunity to spread that water out onto their own land and not affect the abutters. So I think it has to be looked at.
Cause yeah, now's the time to do it.
Yep.
Yep.
And then
How many feet
also,
are we talking, would you say?
He said like 30
It's not gigantic
as far as
to extend it.
extend it? All right.
So they have wetlands in the back, they have.
Just roughly, I mean, it's.
Another
not
100
that-
feet.
I don't have a scale,
Looking at the
but
scale at the bottom.
if this is 30,
And that should
Yeah.
put it out behind your house.
if that's 30,
Yeah, past that.
that's another 30, that's another 30, and that's another 30. So you're talking about 90 more feet, almost 100 feet.
It's just a swale,
Into
And
conservation?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And it
Could
would be
I-
outside of our jurisdiction still.
right.
Could I ask a question? He said we're not solving anything tonight. The gentleman said we need to go out and survey it again. Could they survey it, put a red ribbon around every tree that they have to cut down if they're gonna put it in a new location? And then Cheryl can decide whether she
no,
wants to keep the trees or?
no.
I would.
Or they're gonna put survey stakes, so
Right,
that
those
means
survey-
anything inside the survey stake would be cut down.
It's kinda like going into your yard and say, oh, you don't like that tree. We have nothing to say about it, it's on your.
No, no,
Cut
just a-
down if you want.
Right, so you can visualize where it's gonna
She
be.
makes a good point
No,
that,
I
you know,
understand.
these oaks, they drink
Well, they do.
100 gallons a day
recourse,
in the
so,
summertime.
But if
I
we
mean, I
can
already
get it
have
out,
2 sump
Yeah, if you can go
pumps.
north
we
and
get it
east.
out farther, that's gonna help a lot.
Yeah.
All right, so the survey stakes would give her a
A reference
An
sense
point.
of
idea,
where
yeah,
the
an
new
idea.
possibility would be.
And you're right about them drinking and soaking up a lot of water, but we can't
Mandate.
exert that
Yeah.
jurisdiction on individual trees, so it's a good idea, but we can't do that legally, so.
So it's gonna come down and hit your house.
That's why
you might
when
get
we have
problems.
violations and people clear cut into a wetland, it's so destructive. You can't even if you replant, it's not the same as.
Right, that tree's gonna take 100 years to grow there.
Yeah, they're like.
We have a
gigantic
6-to-1
trees.
ratio
One thing
for
that sucks up the
violations
water.
like that.
Oh, it's tragic.
Replacing.
when you see it.
And then most of them is like, I didn't know that. I didn't know we could do that.
So were there any other questions or comments that we haven't touched on yet?
Is the new homeowners here?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you feel about this?
So, I
Horrible.
mean, we hear the concerns, and I mean, I'm sure that's gonna be a problem for us, and we wanna address it as well.
Yeah.
We bought the land with the existing plans, and we didn't know about this issue. So whatever it is that we need to do to address it, I mean, we're willing to work, with the town and do what we need to do. We don't plan on clearing any trees that we can't cut. We know, we spoke to John about if we were to do anything, that we'd have to get approval, and that's what we plan on doing. As he mentioned, this is gonna be our family home, so we're not gonna do anything that's not going to be compromise what we are legally able to do while building this house, so.
Okay.
Well, it's good that you stopped in, because at least you
No,
can
it's good
understand what
because
we're
we
trying to
get
say.
No, and I understand.
Because a lot of people don't come in and they just do whatever they wanna
I
do.
mean, I would be concerned myself if I was a resident, and,
Yep.
we would do whatever we need to do. Again, we were not aware of this issue when we purchased the lot, so this is all new.
And we're not doing this to be the bad person, we're just doing this to help out
No, I
the
agree.
existing residents and future ones too.
Yeah. And we plan to comply with whatever it is that the town wants us to do.
Lots of water in this town.
So John, do you think we can do this for the next meeting? Get the changes made?
Yes.
What about that road too?
And address some of
We
the
got-
drainage along the
We
roadway?
gotta get an answer from them. Again, if they say they're satisfied, then the residents gotta talk to the DPW, because, if they're satisfied with the drainage and we say we're not, then we're fighting amongst
That's the DPW.
our own people, let's say.
DPW, right?
Yeah.
Right. So,
So if they say yes, go for it, and try to incorporate dealing with it through our permit, then we're free to exert that.
But the.
and if not, then we'll deal with just the abutters to
Yeah.
the south.
Yeah, just have to say that,
Right, then I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing till our next meeting.
I'll make the motion.
yeah. Second that.
You can say it, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
2 weeks.
I believe it's the 5th, is it? Hold on for a second.
Hold on.
So if I understand it correctly, in 2 weeks, we'll
Yep,
have
October
a
5th.
New drawing to look
Right.
at.
Hopefully with our land on there too, this time.
John, I can get you a plan fairly quickly. As far as, I can stake out where it's going on the ground, if you know where it's gonna go on the plan. You wanna see it on the ground, John, out there staked, or?
If you show it on the plan, that's good enough for me. What I would like to suggest, since you're gonna be changing it, is to, you could probably put a dog leg in at this point here.
No, I think we can go back further, John.
You're just gonna push-
Second suggestion.
Lift it all up a little?
Only been staked out. It hasn't been, there's only the one, other than white brush. I can come back to the bend in that, and I can go ahead and go more direct, straight route.
Okay. And,
I prefer to take the bends out, except for we'll just continue the curve around until it's heading right towards that direction. It'll keep it a little bit more consistent for flow.
okay. Yeah, show it on a plan and get it in as soon as you can.
Yeah, we'll get it in, we'll certainly get it in, I'm not sure the end of the week, most of it we think, but first part of the week for sure. And again, I'm not sure that this really has anything to do with the planning board. I'll give the planning board a call. It's a minor change, and whether it be a field change, that's my only other concern.
So, if I could, Mr. Chairman, there's a couple of notes I took down
Yep.
while we were talking. So we're thinking about a condition, and the only reason I say we're thinking is because we haven't taken any action. So, to have a condition that no drainage from Nancy Road will go into number 15's property, which is the one to the south. Dealing with drainage in front of 13 Stoney Road, depending on what the DPW says.
Yep.
And because of the drainage agreement that we will be requiring them to sign, which allows the town to go in and take care of it if the property owner doesn't, and of course, at the cost of the property owner, we have to have a right to be able to do that. So we're gonna need an easement for access by the town across the driveway, the small basin at the turnaround, and the takeoff swale. So there'll be an easement required for that to allow the town to go in.
Don,
Yes,
could I just make a quick comment? I think talking to the DPW, absolutely, but I think your remedy is just right there. I think it's an existing problem that you have, but you can get that water to the west. Yet to have the easement come through this property, you're talking 300 feet of drainage. It doesn't make any sense, but you have a lower area on the state property.
so if the DPW agrees with you, they'll say that, and then we don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, because I think it's just a catch basin on the easterly side at that low point. They clearly know the problem's there. It's been there forever. You can see the pavement's been heaved over the years, but it's just always been there. It's just the roadways get built up on the shoulders, and it doesn't allow that water to get out towards the west side.
Yep.
But that's just a basin and one pipe across, and your drainage is done. You know, that's
As a residents of the town, they should be able to have no problem doing it for them.
and get, put drain lines and catch basins that we're
Just
talking
put a
about.
hose over the road.
All right, so we'll be talking with the DPW on that, but those are the thoughts that I
Okay.
had while we were discussing it.
Right.
I live at 15
No,
Mill Pond,
11.
11.
He's only lived there 28 years.
We were told at all these meetings before that there was going to be something in between, Jim is to my left, Cheryl to my right, that there was going to be a swale or something going right down there, and there was never anything done. Mr. Self said that was going to be done.
Bill,
The way that was worked around was the lots were sold individually. When it was proposed as a subdivision,
Yes.
then it was gonna be a requirement. They got around that by selling individual lots, and then all of a sudden now we don't have to worry about
Didn't have
all
to
the
do it.
water.
And now by
Which is wrong.
not showing our properties, you can't tell anything from from our point of view anyway.
Right. I gave him the sheet there.
You know, originally he wanted 7 houses and get down to 3, and he had to know there was water problems.
But I think
But-
that
but-
detention area and the swale area is,
Right, for the
What?
single, but like you said, when they originally proposed a 7-lot subdivision, there was a full-blown road and full-blown drainage
Wow.
and.
Well, there was a swale
Right,
between the
swale,
property
and
owners.
They had to deal with a lot more, but like you said, reducing it to just 2 Form As along the road and then 1 subdivision lot. They
So we just get.
took everything out of the game.
So the water runs between the house, his name is Ed, 13 Stoney, 15 Stoney. Water runs between, from his yard down in between the 2 houses now.
Between our yards.
Yeah. And you can't,
It's like a river.
now it's filled.
so by downsizing, you think it's how
Right.
that's how they can get away with it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's it, right there.
It's built and sold, so now I can't do anything about it.
And again, like I said, the other 2 that were along the street, if I remember right, were approved and done before the stormwater bylaw was in place. So that
right.
we had no jurisdiction to tell them, you have to deal with the drainage, you can't put it onto the town road, you have to keep it all on your own property.
No, we can't.
In hindsight, if we had passed it earlier, we would have been dealing with having them fix the problems that 13 and 15 are.
so, for the audience here, and not necessarily for the Zoom audience, here's the definitive subdivision plan that Mr. Self had indicated the planning board looked at. So it does seem as if it's 70 feet here. Why do I keep doing that? Come on.
Right quick. Let me get right quick in the picture. There you go.
Thank you. Ah, come on. All right, so,
Uncheck select tool. There you
There we
go.
go.
Now you're all set.
hey, we got so, if this line keeps going in this direction, which it does, and he goes up this way, it's going farther and farther away from the property line. So that should help tremendously.
What's out there now, way in the back?
Woods,
Woods, wetlands.
Which you,
Wetlands,
Yeah.
conservation.
Bo, I don't know if you can see it, but this is the current tree line. So what they'd have to do is cut to gain access. So basically, they're gonna be moving.
Well, he's gonna raise the swale
He's
up
gonna raise the
Right.
line, right?
and then come in. Yeah.
so it's gonna go up here.
Because
Take
it looks
it-
pretty far, but it's not, it's really not many feet at all off our property line. There's just so many trees in there, and there just happen to be the really big ones, and like, he got one cut down, and I stopped him, and I said, before we have this meeting, we just, you know, I don't wanna lose the trees if we had this meeting, and they said, and then we changed it, exactly.
Right, because we changed it now, and he's gonna move the swale up, and that would have saved the tree that he
Save the
did cut
trees,
down.
right.
So,
It'll create a larger buffer between the.
it doesn't give the neighbors a good feel when the contractor goes and tries to do something before a meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's always easier to clear cut everything and then have a
Like how
clean
it's already
slate to
done.
work on
It's
than have
already
to
done.
work around
That's
trees.
what we faced, it's tragic, it really is.
But I work from home, so.
So hopefully we'll have a set of new plans for everybody to look at by next time, and we'll address most of the concerns.
And the markers will be out there.
Okay.
All right, I think we've got a plan to proceed anyway.
All right, so we're good till the next meeting.
Is anybody gonna be driving out there, look at the water, or no? Or no?
That would be the good time
Just
to
take our
have the
word for it.
Department of Public Works be there
Right.
Friday morning. After it
Take a look
rains
after the rains
an
come
inch.
and see what's
Yeah,
really,
we don't even need much.
If I can get out there at night, I will.
yeah.
Thank you.
And feel free anytime, if you see things like that, take a picture and send it to me. Because I don't work on Fridays, and I'm not here Saturday and Sunday, but if you see things, take a picture, email it to me, and I can jump right on it.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Folks, see you in a couple.
Thank you.
Next, we had a continued public hearing for 21 Lincoln Street,
No, I read it.
which I believe.
All right,
they-
Bill, I guess you're all set.
Dictate what trees come down and what
No,
stay?
no.
Really?
Good night, guys.
Thank you.
Good night.
Oh, I didn't mean that.
No,
Could somebody flip that light as you go out the door? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
So, are they saying that the water is gonna be, maybe try to divert it more towards the wetland area?
Yes.
And-
Yep.
That's the whole idea, get it.
Okay.
Did you get a copy of this too?
Yes,
Yeah.
yep. So Lincoln Street request a continuance
They did.
to October 5th? You
Oh, yeah.
think
Yeah,
it's
so
gonna
the
be-
next meeting,
Next
yep.
meeting, okay.
Is he closer?
They received
Thought they got some feedback.
they received a review from the 53G, and they're doing it by, as the commission allowed, they're gonna talk to each other directly to avoid sending the letter, then we have to send them the letter. So I think they're making progress.
Good. Then I'll entertain a motion to continue.
Continue.
Moved, all in favor? Moved. And I'm assuming that 256, 258 Pleasant Street has also asked?
They did, and I forwarded the first review letter to the company that's doing the plans, so that they can address them. And it came in while I was on vacation, and I spotted it today, so I forwarded it to them.
So, how many units is gonna be there?
How many,
How
what?
many units?
Oh, on that Pleasant Street?
Yeah. No, not Pleasant, well, Scotland.
Scotland Street. Which,
Out there,
Lincoln Street, or are you talking the?
no, I'm talking about behind,
oh, Pleasant Street,
Scotland Street.
where
New
D'Alessandro is.
development?
Yeah,
Until-
no,
On the 40B, there's 94 or
40B,
something.
yeah. So it's 94, is it gonna be like
individual.
Whoop.
Oops. Oh, sorry.
Haven't seen you all.
Oh.
Just wanted to say hi.
Oh, hi. All right.
I didn't want to leave without saying hi.
Oh, okay.
Be careful of that electronic.
Yeah, I was like, oh, so they're gonna give me a good spark? I was like, I didn't mean to.
We have a special button underneath this. It goes right to the police
Electrocute me, is that what you got?
I don't know.
That box all of a sudden just goes
Just
poof
goes
and you're gone.
Like lightning, it comes out of the ground.
Is it gonna be spread over?
Take care. Yeah, I just have one concern about that, is that I'm getting a lot of water too,
Where are you?
you know. Well, I owned that land before.
Oh, you're Mr. Smith, Smith, right? Yeah.
You're getting it now in your,
On the back,
in the back part?
On the back part, yeah, I can't even get my fields.
Is it under front, is it under?
Yeah, I can't even mow it.
Yeah.
You think as a result
well, I mean,
of just that?
it's a combination of development,
Yeah, I don't-
and the fact that July and August, we've had 30
I don't-
inches of rain, which we.
Well, I was, my only concern, I don't care about the water, I have a pond there.
Yeah.
It's brook fed, I don't mind the water going there.
Does it go in there? I mean, does
It depends where he's gonna put that swale, the drainage there. I don't know where that's gonna be exactly.
Well, it's 100 feet away from the wetlands,
There's a lot of wetlands there.
yeah. But it's 100 feet back from it, so then it still has 100 feet of untouched land to get to the wetlands
How much
before.
water are we really talking about? Not a check under
It's typical driveway, roof,
But I
and,
mean, that.
it's water,
it's a three-
but not like.
That's a big house.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
looked like
it's a
it.
It is
big
a
house.
big
Yeah.
house.
They're all big houses there, that's the thing.
Well, like I said, I just was wondering where the drainage was going.
Yeah. It's,
I mean, I don't mind if the water goes into the pond, it's full already, but I don't care about that.
it should disperse out,
But it's
Pretty
just
much.
coming closer and closer
yeah.
towards
If
my
he's
barn.
doing it right, it looks like it's gonna be heading kind of out behind Mill Pond and then to the right, kind of,
So
not necessarily down
Towards yours.
towards your pond
A
con,
little bit farther.
right, a little farther.
downstream, let's say, probably.
Yeah, from,
I have the original map, but now it's all changed since I've seen that, so. Okay, I'll come to the next meeting.
Okay, yeah, please.
Okay, you see, oh, nice seeing you.
See what it- Well, I won't come up and scare you next time.
No problems.
So what was that last conversation?
No, just trying to figure out if it's gonna be like one big, kinda like over across the street from you, is it gonna be like individual buildings like that?
no, they're individual house lots.
Individual
Where is
house
this
lots,
now?
so there's gonna be like 9
The,
of them?
yeah, well,
Some are duplex.
duplexes, and
Okay.
some are.
But still, so
This
there's
is
gonna be.
So I think there's,
roughly
is it,
about
was it
Street.
84 or 82 or something total units?
Units.
I thought it was.
Well, it's 94-ish total units,
With
but
both
the
sides,
buildings
right.
are sometimes duplexes, so
Right.
a fewer number of buildings, but
So it's gonna be basically spread out amongst that whole back area there?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody asked me that, and I wasn't too sure, I'm like, I don't know if it's gonna be
And
kinda
on the
like,
other side.
yeah, I don't know if it's gonna be kinda like the way across from
Yeah,
your way is.
I
Yeah,
guess
they're
Or
not
if
gonna
it's
be
gonna
high
be, I
or
know you did say it
local.
was gonna be individual, it was supposed to be, wasn't it supposed to be kinda like that way?
two houses together.
In some of them,
Or
and,
double?
yeah,
Right.
and some of them are multi-story, some are just one story with
It was
a
gonna be like
attic.
a little community.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
There'll be a voting block in the town.
Yeah, there'll be a new district.
Yeah. Okay.
Precinct,
Well, it's
right?
funny, they
Precinct, yeah.
Yeah.
just looked at that at the last.
Right,
town
at the
meeting.
select, yeah, they said that, what is it, only
Getting
400 more voters and
Yeah.
or 400
Yeah.
residents.
Third,
Yeah, we end up having to have 3 precincts,
That'll be here pretty quick.
which then they have to figure out where the 3rd precinct votes.
that's right. Gerrymandering, right? Is that what that is?
So 256, 258 continues till next meeting?
Yes.
And I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make it.
Second.
Move second, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Any invoices to sign?
Yes.
See the ribbons.
I saw tags.
We have a certificate of compliance for what was, oh boy, what do we, as part of 256, 258, it used
Oh,
to
okay.
be, a contractor was gonna store steel.
Oh, yeah.
That's no longer, that's got.
That project, in order to
expired.
close it out, we have to do this to let them do the next filing.
And we voted at it back in, I think, July meeting. And I never had the slip, and I discovered that we had to make a slip for you to sign. So it's already been voted, we just need a signature, so I'll pass that around. We have an invoice for Gatehouse Media for advertising of Tiffany Circle for $30.40. We have a
Rings a bell, but.
we have a Gatehouse Media for public hearing ad for 58 Hartshorn Street.
Oh,
That's okay, you
Gatehouse
keep going,
is
I'll
the
grab them all when
Okay.
you're done.
Is that the newspaper, John?
Yes,
Yeah.
yep,
Okay,
the Enterprise.
Yeah.
We have a request to return the surety for getting a certificate of compliance for 1 Tiffany Circle, and we signed the certificate last meeting. And so this is to return their bond of $100. And we have a WB Mason bill for office supplies for a total of $12.69. And that's for Scotch tape.
Gotta cover every dime.
Yep.
Then I will entertain a motion to authorize payment of all 4 invoices.
Is that motion?
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Chairman Tim, I got a question.
Can you hear her all right?
What was,
I
It's
can't
Carol
very well.
asking a
I'm
question.
deaf.
what do you got?
As second alternative, am I supposed to vote?
You can.
You
Yeah.
can, because we don't have all of our sitting members. So when we don't have a full board, the alternate can act as a voting member. So you can vote.
All right, thank you.
And is there any other business? Does anybody else have anything?
I do have something that I don't want you to vote on, but, because it's not on the agenda.
Yep.
But we have a hearing that's going to be at our next meeting for a septic repair. And the owner of the property is an elderly woman, Linda Green. I don't know if you recall that name. She used to be on the Conservation Commission many, many years ago. And she's quite elderly, and she wants the commission to consider waiving the delineation fee for the septic repair. And so I don't want a vote, but I want you to think about it because you'll be asked at the next meeting. And we've done it for certain cases in the past where
Is it failed?
the septic has failed, yes.
And so there's no choice. Yeah.
Right,
Can't do anything about it other than have to get it fixed.
right.
Okay.
So
What
you'll
kind of
be,
latitude do we have when you come right down to it on, how do we avoid doing it for someone like that?
If somebody
Someone
pleads a
else
hardship
saying-
case and comes in and says, hey, it's a failed system, I can't use it, I have to get it done,
Right,
I'm on a fixed income, they're filing for the septic abatement
Yeah.
program to help
Yeah.
finance it, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
we kind of look at the situation and say, okay.
right, we're not really setting
Yeah.
a precedent.
I think this is the first one we've had in a while.
been a long
yeah,
time.
there's only been maybe one other one that I recall, and it
Yeah.
was a similar situation.
Right.
Fixed income.
Sure. Okay.
Now, if no one ever asked and they had the same situation but never asked, we never know. I mean,
That's right.
we don't know until we're asked, so it was one other one in the past that I
I
can recall.
remember that,
So, that's it?
That's it? Anybody have anything else?
What did you think, Carol?
You guys are awesome.
yeah. You're awesome.
Well, thank you for joining us.
So I'm gonna be awesome because you're gonna be part of the team.
All right. I like that.
Takes a while.
It's what?
I think it's time for me to retire.
Get a hold of Kitty as soon as you can about taking some of those courses.
Okay.
Yeah, because actually they offer them online now, a lot of
Yeah,
them.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not twisting your arm to do it, but
I
it's a,
signed up for one already,
oh, wow.
You got one?
but it was for CPC.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I don't know about, the Concom has courses too?
Oh, yes, through the Mass Association of Conservation Commissions.
Okay, so I want to sign up for them.
Good. Kitty will be able to direct you. Or if I'm in, I'll be able to do the same.
Okay, thanks.
Hearing nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Second that one.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
I
Aye.
So moved.